All right, welcome back, everybody. We've got another exciting episode on everything you need to know about purchasing a walk-in tub, and we've got our expert staff, including from Drive Medical, Mr. Josh Gordon, Mr. Peter Kozlowski, and Miss Diane Walkwiak. And everybody, welcome back. We had a great video the first time. And if you're out there and you're considering buying a walk-in tub, there's going to be tubs that are going to be ideal for home use. There's going to be tubs for long-term care. We're going to answer questions about both of those. And in the first video, we talked a little bit about safety features. We got into some of the types of tubs, and we're going to just touch back up on that again. And then we're going to move into some new subjects, which will also get us into cost and installation and some of the most important questions you're going to need to know when making a decision on purchasing a walk-in tub. And so with that being said, I'm going to put it back, Diane, with you, and I'm going to have you just, and Josh and Peter, go through some of the basic models of walk-in tubs, how they're set up, and how you initially evaluate what type of tub is going to be best for either home or for long-term care, and some of the features and some of the design options that'll help you figure out what is the best tub that's going to fit your need.
Okay, well, I'll start it off a little
Yeah.
bit with if we look at this slide and we're talking about accessible bathing, when we're talking healthcare environment, be it assisted living, skilled nursing, you have different levels of care within your building. And so we provide a line of side entry baths that allow for ambulatory access into the bath where they sit and pivot. A caregiver is still going to assist in the bathing process or be in the room with them, but it provides them a little bit of independence and that sense of pride, our independence, some of the things that we give up as we age, right? But if we can have some of that back, it's great. Also, with these side entry baths, they have lift accessibility. So if your facility uses sit to stands or slings, that can assist the caregiver in to getting the individuals into and out of the baths. So these types of models will really bathe quite a good percentage of your residents within your facility. And so, one of the things that we do at Drive is we believe in common features, common tools. So let's say you are a CCRC, so a continuing care. You're going to maybe have people move into your apartments. They're going to then go move up to, say, assisted living. Then maybe they move over to long-term care or your skilled wing. And so it's providing an environment where they can age out, right? Once they, leave their home, they have a facility they can go to, and they might move from one wing to another, but they're still in the same basic environment, right? And so we believe in like the common application. So like our all of our valving systems, they're similar. If you look across the board of all three of these, any caregiver, depending on what bath they're using, has the ability, knows how to use the tub. It's the same hinge on the outward swing door here. So again, ease of operation, right? And that yet it has the full comfort that you'd want for the residents. So, little bit different positioning of the controls. So the Colorado, for say, like we talked about last time, that allows maybe the individual to do some of the applications while bathing, giving them again that sense of independence, giving them some of that dignity back. I can still do this for myself, right? Caregiver is still going to be in the room, but they get that sense, right? The Berkeley, the controls are a little bit more leaning towards the caregiver side of the bath, but yet the caregiver can be in constant communication with the individual, let them know what they're doing in the bathing cycle. So, you know, comfortable reclining seat within the design of the bathtub. So just a lot of unique little features that make them comfortable for both the caregiver and the individual that's bathing, right? So we want to accommodate both individuals in a healthcare facility.
Diane, I know, from our previous meeting, can we maybe just talk about, I was just thinking about earlier, the heated option, the whirlpool
Okay.
option, maybe we could just touch on that for a second.
Okay. Okay. So on the healthcare side, we offer the air spa system, and mainly the reason for use offering exclusively the air spa system on the healthcare side is cross-contamination is huge issue in these types of environments, right? And so when we talk about the air spa, it has a backflow prevention in it. So when you fill the bath with water and you have the air system on or off, if someone prefers a soaker rather than having the movement of the water, there's a check valve within each one of those jets that will not allow the water to backflow into the airlines. So when you clean your surface with your disinfectant, when you clean the surface of the jets and the surface of the bathtub, you've cleaned the entire system so that it's safe for the next person to enter that bath. You don't have to worry about water in any lines that's been sitting between baths. So that's a really key feature. Here's that control panel component that we were talking about a minute ago. Again, easy to see the temperature of the water. That temperature probe measures both the water entering the bath through the fill spigot or the water going through the shower wand. It will give you a temperature of both. The valve itself is a thermostatic mixing valve, and that provides an automatic shutoff or an anti-scald protection. So if for some reason you lose hot, say cold water, that line bursts or something, it doesn't allow 100% hot water to go through that valve system. It will shut it off. It has to have a proper mix of cold and hot. So you can control that max temperature that's entering the bathtub. Um, Push button control for the air system, very simplistic. Everything here is top accessible for maintenance. Again, we think about the ease for the caregiver, but we also want to think of the ease of maintenance and keeping your equipment up and at pristine operation. So every one of these items has a core. So like your thermostatic mixing valve has a core that the water flows through. The same with your fill and shower cartridge. They have a cartridge in there that again controls that flow. Those items can be taken out on, say, a quarterly basis and cleaned. Again, keeping in mind the cost and the maintenance of the equipment. By doing normal maintenance, you can extend the life of these components by keeping them clean. And those type of things are in the manuals, but it's important for both maintenance and caregivers to know that the tub's operating at maximum performance. Does
And
that answer
Diane,
your question, Josh?
Yeah,
yeah.
and then I was going to look at the heating option really quick.
Okay,
Yep.
yes, the heated seat. Okay, so this is an optional item that's available on the side entry bathing equipment. And what it is, it's at the base of the seat or where you're sitting, and then on your shoulder, the back side of around your shoulder area, there are heating elements. It's on a pad, and then that is controlled by this simple button. You turn it on, and that will bring that up to temperature, and then it will hold that temperature for 10 minutes, and then you can restart it again, or it will shut itself off. But what's nice about that is a side entry bath is a tub that you have to enter before it's filled with water, right? So this actually just warms the surface. It's not like your car seat heaters where they get really hot and sometimes you have to turn them way down to because you realize, this is getting a little too warm. This doesn't do that kind of heat. What it does is it just takes the chill factor off the fiberglass surface so that it's warm and inviting. So both when it's filling and when it's draining, it's just, that warm environment. So a nice option, a nice feature.
That's a definitely a plus, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are buying the walk-in tubs that would look at that and say that's definitely worth the upgrade. Diane, I want to circle back to the first slide that we had, and there's the different types of doors. And can you explain what the ideal scenario is for each one of those? Like you're situating first off where it's going to be positioned in the room. Is that correct? And then you're also looking at if it's going to be done with the individual themselves or if there's going to be access with a caregiver. But if you were looking at these different models and you see the door going in compared to the door going out, I know before we jumped on the call, you had actually mentioned that some of these doors are meant to open up and actually go over a toilet. And so, can you talk a little bit about what maybe some of the ideal scenarios are for the different door styles and how that would work with the rooms that those units might be put into?
Okay. So in our healthcare line, which the Berkeley, the Colorado, and the Marmot are, they have similar doors. Okay. So here, what we're looking for is wide entry access. Okay. When we look at our walk-in tub line, which I think we're going to focus a little bit more on next week, we have inward swing doors to accommodate smaller rooms where we don't have the space to have an outward swing door. We also have outward swing doors in our walk-in tub line that will go over a toilet. Again, so taking into account the space in the room and allowing, the best of both worlds, that wide open access that an outward swing door provides, yet fitting into a smaller room or a smaller environment. So when we look at these three units that we have up on the screen right now, what we're looking for here is by removing or having that door open to its widest point, you've taken away probably 3/4 of the front of that bath. So this allows the individual to actually sit on the seat and pivot in, lifting their legs and pivoting in, or having the caregiver help them lift their legs in. And it just creates a really nice wide opening to accommodate that. Also, if I'm using a sling lift, where I'm kind of in a reclined position in that sling, that allows the opening of the door to allow me to enter without any obstructions. And so, again, we look at what are we trying to accomplish? What does our environment look like? And then, we kind of look at the models that will best fit in the space and accommodate the individuals that will be using it. So if we look at the Berkeley, if you look at the design of this tub, we have our controls at the head end. This can actually, there's an access panel on this back wall. So if you want to make it, say, a peninsula, where this area of the tub where the controls are is towards the back or at the wall, then this comes out into the room. And then that actually basically gives the caregiver three-sided access to the individual that's in the bathtub, depending on, so it gives them more access to the individual. It can also be installed with the long side against a back wall. And so then again, in that case, I look at it more as two-sided access because I never want to have my back to an individual when I'm assisting in a bath. The Colorado is more designed for up against a back wall, or you can install any one of these tubs in an island environment where it's kind of in the center of the room. The plumbing has to be accessible from underneath the bath then. And then you need to just, again, evaluate the install and make sure you do not obstruct any of your lift access space, right? So that's where we would look at every individual organization's spa room or their home bath, and we would, recommend what will work with the least modifications to keep that cost of the install down.
And
And
so, Josh, go ahead. Did you want to throw
no,
something
I was
in
just
there?
going to say, there is definitely, timing is everything. We're seeing a lot of facilities that have existing tubs now, and I know I mentioned it previously, but are looking to to really give that upgrade, right? And so they only know what has existed and not what's out there. So, obviously our goal is to really, provide the offering really best fit, but really give the details on what they're used to, what's new, how we could help, each of these facilities, and so just to support them in every which way on how they do these types of switch outs.
Yeah, actually, Josh, you bring up a great point because we did talk on the first in the first meeting that we did that there has been upgrades on things like the cleaning of the units. And Diane, you brought up that there's no way now that in the jets water can sit in there, and those are things that are modifications that you get as you upgrade the equipment, as you've been producing it longer, you start coming up with all these upgrades and all these features that make it cleaner, make it safer to use, the anti-scald. These are all things that, if you're out there and you're running a long-term care facility and you want to upgrade the quality of life for the people who are in there and give them that spa environment and use that, as we said earlier, as a marketing tool to really offer a high quality of patient care. This is the type of equipment that you want in your facility because me as a potential person looking at maybe for my mom, I would say, wow, if my mom could get into one of these tubs and get access to that 3 or 4 days a week, that would be huge. I mean, Peter, you've brought up in previous conversations that this is more than just bathing. There's certainly the cleaning part of it, but this is also about something to look forward to. And Diane, the word spa really does resonate because these really are like a spa type tub. And to have that experience, for myself dealing with patients with wound care and a lot of soreness, arthritis, back pain, back injuries, shoulder, knee, you get into a hot soaking tub with bubbles and jets, and the experience of that is really phenomenal when it comes to reducing pain, reducing inflammation, and also just having an experience that you can just kind of wind down at the end of a day with. So Diane, do you want to follow up and add some more to that, what we're kind of talking about with some of those features?
If I could just jump in real quick, just as far as the marketing tool for the facilities, there are multiple angles, like you were saying, that they can hit it from. So there's the safety focus, there's the comfort and wellness, the spa focus, like an emotional reassuring focus where you can step in safely, you can step out confident. And then there's the independence and the lifestyle where that you do give them that access to the controls. Maybe they don't have to interact with the caregiver as much, just feel a little bit more independent. So I think there's multiple angles that they can hit with that marketing approach.
Diane, do you want to follow back
Agree.
up? I know we talked about it, but tell us again about those features where the water doesn't sit in the jets with the airflow. It allows, the cleaning of the units to be much more effective and it raises a higher standard of cleanliness in the tubs.
Right, right. If we think back to years ago, Whirlpool was really the first and only thing we had when it came to the warm bath that provided that cleansing process that the air and the water create, right? And with a Whirlpool system, what you were blowing into the water was air from the room and the water that was in the bath. You're pushing that through the internal plumbing. And so what happens is when you shut the Whirlpool off, water would sit in the lines between baths. So when you disinfected the bathtub, you also had to back flush the bathtub. And that was back flushing of the internal plumbing lines, which took extra time, took extra chemicals, and you didn't have the ability to scrub. So when you clean a surface of anything with a disinfectant, you need to scrub the surface as well. So, like with all our bathtubs, they have a disinfecting cabinet that's a lockable cabinet that holds not only the disinfecting wand and the disinfectant, but it also holds a cleaning brush. So it's as simple as you hose down the surface with your combination of disinfectant and water, which is automatically mixed through the DEMA valve that's in the disinfecting system. You take the brush, you brush it down, you let it set 10 minutes, right? And then you rinse it off and your bath is clean. With the old systems or the non-closed loop systems, you had to worry about that water in between the bath because that's going to be introduced into the next bath, right? And so by having the air system that has that locking or check valve that does not allow the water to go internally into the lines, you are assured that if you clean the surface according to your disinfectant, you have a clean bath. And with cross-contamination and what we experienced a few years back with COVID and other things that we see that can affect the operation within a facility, this is a perfect, or near perfect cleaning solution. We can, be assured that we're cleaning the bath.
So I love all that. And that to me is a big deal. If you're getting into a tub, you want to know that it's clean. And like you said, that backwater sitting in the valves, coming back in after somebody else had been there, or even if you're in there repeatedly, that is really an upgraded feature. And I think those are the kind of things that's important to point out that the development stage of the product keeps getting better and better. Now, I have to get to the golden question. And Diane and Josh and Peter, this is going to be in two phases. What is the cost? What is the average cost of a walk-in tub for a home care person? And what would you say would be the average cost of a walk-in tub for the long-term care facility? And tell us a little bit about what the consumer is going to see when they get out there and what the differences in cost are so that as a prospective consumer looking into this and you're going out and you're just starting to shop these by price, tell us a little bit about what you get for the money and tell us ballpark kind of where we're at with both the home care part portion and also with the long-term care facilities.
Diane, I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. So if we look at the walk-in tubs, you start out with our Hawaii model, which is an inward swing door. It's probably our little crown jewel of the inward swing doors. But you start with a soaker, and we're around the 5,000 or $5,000 to $6,000 price point. But again, the same type of features that we are very proud of in our healthcare model, we carry over to our residential model because we think they're important. It's a little different valve package, but it is still anti-scald. We have a 2-inch drain. We use aluminum airline grade aluminum for our framing, so we don't have to worry about rust or deterioration or anything like that. And so we build our walk-in tubs for residential at the same level that we build a healthcare tub that we're expecting to be used 25 times a day in some facilities. Your walk-in tub at home isn't going to stand that kind of test, but still we want you to have that quality. You can buy a $2,000 walk-in tub, but you're going to find that the framing is not quality. Some of them don't even have frames. They're trying to utilize a tub that is simply made out of either the fiberglass or acrylic with no real structure behind it. And so you just want to ask the questions, know what you're getting, and make an informed decision. But you want to know what are the quality of the valves, what kind of drain system is included in the bath, what's its framing, what's the warranty. Our shells, our fiberglass, has a 30-year warranty on it. We expect this composite product to last, and we stand behind it. The same with our door seals, a 30-year warranty. The components, we have a 1-year parts warranty, but I've been following our warranty for years, since I joined the company, and these things are built to last. Very few failure points. And again, the ease of fixing or repairing, because we know something will break eventually, right? but we also want to keep that cost of ownership over the life of the tub down. And so we keep those components at a reasonable price, and we keep them where your maintenance department, or if it's a walk-in tub, a family member, maybe you don't feel comfortable anymore, but your local plumber or a family member, we can support them in how to replace a component or repair a component. So we want to make it a very cost-effective purchase over the life of the tub.
And I think, to that point, we've mentioned it previously, but just, these are made in the USA, right? So that the ease of getting the parts, the communication, the service that you're going to get, not necessarily, from Drive Direct, but with Sean in the front and working directly with us, it's very easy to utilize your resources, right? So that's what we're here to support, and what you're going to get out of the box, is here, and I think that stands, a lot for itself.
John, you might be muted.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. I've been in the medical industry now for over 15 years. I primarily deal a lot with hospitals and hospital grade care, and Drive being, a company here in the States, it's really helping us provide really high quality equipment for the long-term care market. I have never, ever in the history of my life ever heard of a 30-year warranty. That to me really speaks for itself, that you're putting together a product that you basically are going to say for for a good chunk of your life, you're not going to have issues with. And that's the beauty of Drive. Drive offers a very high level of quality. And Josh, you hit the nail on the head. I'm even going to put a bullseye on it. Sparta, Tennessee. Am I right, Diana?
Correct.
Sparta,
Correct.
Tennessee. So the good people of Sparta, Tennessee are going into these factories on a daily basis, putting the time and effort in to do this American made products built by people right here in the States that take a lot of pride in what they do. And when you're building a product with a 30-year warranty, that is really something to stand behind. I mean, I don't even know products that are out there that'll even do 5, much less 3. And so there's a lot to be said for that. That really, to me, is absolutely amazing. Now we talked about, you said that ballpark, the cost would start off in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. I know depending on the add-ons and some of the things that you can still do. Josh, you talked about the heated seats, and I'm sure there's additional upgrades that you can put in there. Where would a price model be ballpark for a long-term care facility that's going to use it more for commercial use?
So the site entries are going to range anywhere from about 16,000 to about 20, again, depending on if it's a soaker or air spa. Then when we get into our reclinable tubs or our height adjustable recumbent tubs, those can range anywhere from 20,000 to 27,000 with autofill and, scales and different things like that. So again, based more on the needs of the facility and the type of equipment. So here, for example, is our reclining tub. And I kind of call this our eco-friendly bathtub. So this has a pre-fill, again, optional feature, but a pre-fill feature where you can pre-fill the footwell of this bathtub with 24 gallons of water. And so then once the door actually swings up instead of out. So once the person is seated in the bath and positioned in the bathtub, the door is shut. The tub reclines. That 24 gallons of water starts, now I'm partially immersed in the water, and then I continue to fill the bath, another 14 gallons. So it holds approximately 38 gallons of water, and I get a good soak in this bath. I have a good water level. So when you're comparing it to some of the other models out there that take 65 to 75 gallons of water to fill, I'm saving the facility quite a bit of water in both consumption and waste. And depending, I'm from Nebraska. So, our waste isn't as expensive as maybe when you're in a New England state, and water consumption and water waste can be very costly. So again, keeping the eco-friendly side of the equipment in mind here. And yet you have um, this model has three plumbing configurations, an island, a side plumbing, or a front plumbing. So when we talk about it, can be in the center of a room, it can be a peninsula install, it can be next to the wall. There are many different ways to accommodate this bath within the room. It also has the lift accessibility. It has the capability to add a scale. One of the nice things about having a scale connected to your bath is the environment's the same every time. I'm not in my jeans and a sweater today or tomorrow in a t-shirt and shorts, right? My weight's going to fluctuate. I take my weight in a bath, I'm in the same environment every day, right? So different things like that, again, what are we trying to accomplish at the facility? This is a very elite model. It has some nice features. Because it's a reclinable tub, it also has a standard battery backup. So if there were a power failure while you were bathing someone, you would still be able to finish the bath, get the bath in position to open the door and let the individual out. Somebody wouldn't be trapped in the bathtub because we don't have power. So yeah, another. I could go on and on about the features.
So Diane, we the reclining bath, that's really ideal for somebody in a Hoyer lift. Is that the ideal person that's going to use the tilt, or what are your thoughts on that?
So really, what the tilt does is it brings that individual kind of in that reclined position, so it gives the caregiver even better access to the individual. So it kind of does two things. Besides saving the water, the reduced water usage, it also positions the individual, both their upper body and lower body, in a good position for the caregiver to have access to them, right? So those would be the two main reasons we would want the reclinable feature. It does work with people with the lifts as well, Sling or Hoyer. But like I said, you can still be ambulatory and use this bath because the seat height is accessible, where I can sit and pivot just like I do the side entry, or it has the lift accessibility, so it accommodates both.
And
I
Josh,
think
was there anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I know you
I
want.
think just to your point, if anybody out there, has questions or really, interest, I think to talk out exactly what their needs are, and I think to Diane's point, what type of, issues are you looking to solve, so we can really all work together to support, exactly what they're looking for, right?
And that actually is a great point. And Josh, you segued right into one of the other things I wanted to say. If you are out there and you're watching this series of videos that we're doing, which is everything you need to know about buying a walk-in tub, you can email us. There's going to be an email and a link down below where you can get in touch with us and get in touch with everybody here on this call, including Josh, Diane, and Peter. And we can do a call. And Josh, you really hit the nail on the head. There's a model for every situation, every budget, every room type, every need. And, to get an expert staff of people like yourselves all together to help sort of figure out the best options for a long-term care facility, this is really an add-on benefit that you can get, where we can come in and sort of customize the best option for you that fits the budget, and then really give you the ability to offer that higher level of patient care to the people that you're dealing with on a daily basis. And we've also talked about how, we're going to put together through our group of sites, not directly with Drive, but through our sub sites here that we're doing to promote the tubs, the walk-ins, where we can help promote the facility as a facility in the area that does offer this higher level of service and care. Because if you're out there and you're watching it and you're not actually necessarily going to purchase one of the products for home, but you do have a loved one going into a long-term care facility, and you'd like to find where this type of equipment is being produced or where it's accessible, we're here to help you source and find the places out there in your areas that also provide this quality of home care and long-term care for your parent or your loved one.
Excellent.
So, Diane, I guess we're going to get into the final step here on this call today and just give ballpark, because obviously you can't quote it out exactly, but let's say we're looking at putting this in the home, we're looking at putting this in the long-term care facility. We've sort of picked out a model. Talk to me about the installation part of that and how that's done and how that's put together and ballpark price ranges of where you're going to be to kind of complete the final step to get this installed and get it put into the facility or into the home.
Okay. So most all of our equipment can be installed by a plumber or a contractor or even maintenance department in many healthcare facilities. Let's say it's a replacement piece of equipment. As long as your water line, your supply lines are there, your drain access is there, and your electrical is there, um, this is going to sound a little obnoxious, but I can install these tubs because everything is pretty self-contained. So all of our units, healthcare or residential, come with 3/4 inch water supply lines, right? So that's what you're connecting to. So in some home environments, you're not going to have access to 3/4 inch lines, but your plumber can usually get access to your line and make them 3/4 inch lines, right? So you would want to use a certified plumber for that. And the only reason I would recommend is if you can do that, spend the money. You're going to get a much better fill rate with the 3/4 inch water lines than a 1/2 inch water lines, which are usually standard in the home environment, right? And the same with your drain. We put 2-inch drains on our walk-in tubs, again, accommodating a lot faster drainage. So, but if the room is prepped and ready, so meaning we're prepared to connect, and they don't have to be exact. We use flexible water line hoses that will allow for you to run, 3 to 4 feet away from maybe where the water line is on the tub, right? You can do that and still look and still have a really good install. So and then the drain is usually towards the back at the base of the tub, right? And again, we want it towards the back of the bathtub, depending on your install, so that it does not obstruct any lift accessibility. Because as we've talked, when it comes to the healthcare side, all of them have lift accessibility. On the walk-in tub side, that's a little different. But again, you still want to make sure you are containing everything under your bath, right? So that it's not out in the room anywhere causing a tripping hazard or something like that. But literally, it's connecting your hot and cold water supply lines, connecting your drain, and plugging it in to a GFCI ground fault plug-in. Again, we're in a bathroom and we're plugging into an electrical environment, so we want that protected. So those are our requirements.
And Diane, I know we've talked about this before, and you could share. Is it just the specific dimensions? Is it like a diagram that someone should fill out? How would we go and make sure that we have the best tub for them, just to share with everybody?
Yep. Okay. So usually, and then I'll come back to price, Sean, because I know you asked that too. But usually what we like to do is if we can't get into every environment or get someone out there tomorrow to take pictures of a room or to get us measurements of the room, right? So let's say it's a healthcare facility that is replacing an old, let's say an old Invacare tub. They no longer produce their site entry baths. So what we would do is we would want a picture of the room. We would want some basic measurements, the width, depth, what obstructions are the room, and it can be a circle where the toilet might be, or if there's a shower also. A lot of times in a common bathing area, they have a shower on one end, a bath on the other, right? And so we would just need to know, if they have a warming table for towels or whatever, which some of them do anymore, just kind of a basic diagram of that and a basic diagram of where the existing plumbing is, like if my water supply lines are 12 inches off the floor and they're 44 inches from wall A and 60 inches from wall B, it just gives me an idea that, okay, we can work with that. Nothing has to be changed there. And the same with the drain, just kind of, again, X's on a sheet of paper with some basic measurements. And we can then make a recommendation based on that. So like this tub, for example, takes 88 inches when it's reclined. So if I only have 60 inches on the wall side, I can still maybe install
Mhm.
this as a peninsula, but it's not going to go sideways against that wall because I need 88 inches. But if I have the depth in the room, you know, but those are things we need to look at. What will fit, what will work, and what will accommodate their residents in the best possible way.
And if you're
So
out
then
there
you talked
watching this
about,
and you want to send that to us, we'll take a look at it. We'll get it in front of the panel and we'll be more than happy to provide feedback for you on that. Josh, that was really an excellent follow-up question. And then did you want to touch in ballpark just installation costs? Now, first off, before you say a word, the fact that you can actually go in and install these, I'm impressed, Diane. That is awesome. So that kind of gives me, number one, it shows me how, inept I am personally at it plumb, but that's actually pretty cool because that really shows also that you've simplified the process and made it quite easy to try to keep the cost of the installation down. But where would somebody be ballpark? Where would you think, kind of start finish for home and maybe ballpark? And this isn't exact, obviously, but just to give
yeah.
people out there a general idea.
And there again, if the room is ready, let's say I don't have to worry about moving any water lines or plumbing lines, and depending on what part of the country you're in, let's say that a plumber charges $85 an hour right now. They should be able to install this tub in 4 hours if they don't have to, or less, really less. But you want to make sure the tub is leveled. There's some things that you're going to have to do to prep the room, and then getting the tub into the room. A half day, in my opinion, tops would install one of these tubs. Now, when you were working in a walk-in tub, there's a little bit difference then. Um, so healthcare tub, I maybe have to remove the old tub and put in the new tub, but don't have to move any plumbing, right? So then that keeps the cost down. I would say 4 hours on a healthcare side, you could easily install the tub. Residential might be a little different because I might have to remove an old tub. So it just depends on all the work that would have to happen. Are the doors wide enough? In a healthcare facility, 36-inch doors or bigger are standard because they are used to lifts going through and wider hallways. We don't have that luxury in a home. So your home installs could actually cost a little bit more because there's more prep. There's more to, change a room or an existing bathroom if that's where you're going to place it. Um, and there again, it just depends on what environment you're trying to create and what we're trying to accomplish. Let's say that we do not, in the home environment, we do not want to change our main bathroom, but we want to accommodate a room for mom. We want to accommodate a bath for mom. I've seen people take a spare bedroom on the back side of a bathroom and they have water access through a wall. They've put a bathtub, taken the doors off a double wide closet, placed a side entry bath in that room, and it's extended mom's capability to stay at home for 5 more years. And I've not made a major modification to my house. So again, based on what's required to be done. So if I did something like that, I'm cutting into a wall, I'm tapping into water lines, I'm tapping into a drain, that could take a day's worth of time from a local plumber to do all that and get the tub up and running. Maybe I'm tearing out some carpet and having to put in some linoleum to protect that floor because, I'm not going to want a bathtub on carpet. So you can see where I'm going. I honestly can't say an install price that, would be just set in stone. It
No.
depends, but we could help them connect to the right people because always recommend, when possible, use someone that's accustomed to your facility, your local plumbers, or someone you've used in your home before that does quality work, um, and get an estimate up front, on what would have to happen. Um, to get it even down the hallways. Think of that. Think of the different models and what I'm trying to accomplish. Do I go through a window rather than trying to go through hallways and doorways?
Yeah, I
I've had
mean,
people do that.
yeah.
So,
As somebody that delivers 700-pound hospital beds into homes on a daily basis, I can tell you that there's a lot of challenges that go into that and how it's going to be done. And, a lot of times it's just the prep work. It's just getting pictures and information so we know what we're getting into. It's going to be the same with the tubs. And, I do want to circle back for anybody watching the video. There's two things that can determine where your mom, your dad, or your loved one stays, and one is the bathing situation, and the other is using the bathroom. And so on these calls for the walk-in tubs, I feel that this is very important because what we're talking about is number one, modifications that can be made to deliver a very high quality of life for bathing. And that addresses a lot of things aside from just the cleanliness part of it. We've talked about that many times when the spa treatment's there, the pain, the stiffness, the soreness, and other things are being addressed. And then the bathing and then the bathroom part of it, there's a lot of different things on that segment. But if it is time to transition and get into a facility where you're going to be able to provide that higher level of care for mom or dad or your loved one at a facility, long-term care, then if you're looking to get into a long-term care facility, these are the kind of amenities that you really want to focus on. There's standard things like a bed and a mattress and basic things that are, they're going to be standard, but what is it that's going to separate a long-term care facility from the other? And what is the quality of life that your loved one, your mom, your dad, your sister, brother, what is it that they're going to get? And so the goal of these videos is to give people that information, look at those options, and say, look, if we, Diane, you brought up a great point. Maybe we don't do the bathroom because maybe, there's things there, but hey, we go to another part where we have water access and we get this tub set up and put some linoleum down. And now, you know what, mom's going to be able to stay at home with dad, and this is going to give them a real great quality of life. It's going to be easier to get in there. We're addressing so many things, and there's in this time, place, and circumstance with a lot of baby boomers and a lot of population in the United States getting older. These are valid, legitimate questions that people are asking every day. And so to have Josh, to have Diane and Peter, experts in the industry that are doing this on a day-to-day basis, that know the equipment well, that are dealing with all these different types of scenarios, and then making yourself accessible so that the everyday person out there watching these videos, we can get access to say, send me the information and let me, contact everybody. And then let's sit down and do a quick call to talk about these options for you. So if you're a facility manager at a long-term care and your group has been talking about doing this, let us have some input and let us help you find a solution base that's going to be best for you, and find ways that we can help you integrate this in and make it easy on caregivers, and give this high quality of life to the people that are there on a day-to-day basis, that you're getting to know on a very, familiar basis with them being, actual everyday people that are in your facility. And so with that being said, I think, today was another great call. With all calls, before I wrap them up, I always like to give everybody a last word. And so, Josh, I'll start with you. But before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say about today's call that you'd like to finish up with?
No, I think one thing I've learned in this industry, education is power. The ability to look at all of your options that are out there. After putting together this lineup and understanding what the end user is looking for, we solve a lot of problems. And our goal is to ensure that the individuals at the end are happy, they're independent, they're just enjoying life, and that's our goal at the end of the day, and one of our missions. So thank you again.
Diane, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I agree. The informed decision, being able to understand, what you're getting, why does it solve what you're wanting to solve, and asking the questions, making sure that we accommodate what the end user, be it a facility, be it an
Yep.
individual, will give them the best quality of life. That's our goal. That's our goal.
Thank you for that. And Peter, sir, anything you'd like to add?
I just agree with what everybody's saying, and it just, again, the focus on keeping your loved ones at home. It's a powerful thing that you can do. It's in terms of your mentality, it's just going to enhance your quality of life. And then for anybody who is in a facility, again, you're just looking forward to that spot treatment, that quality of life improvement, which beyond the physical benefits is just going to have those mental benefits and like that relief at the end of the day. So I think it's powerful, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody does with it.
Yeah, super exciting. And once again, I want to bring back that Drive Medical, it's dream home care. It's the dream scenario of how you can, take an everyday home and upgrade it in a way where people are getting a very high quality of life. And Drive is dedicated to that. Drive is dedicated to providing the highest quality products, the information, the knowledge. And I am super grateful to be able to jump on this call and also learn along with everybody else that's out there. I think that's the beauty of it for me is that I'm asking everyday questions because as a guy in his 50s, I have a mom in her 80s, and we have family members where these decisions are coming up, and I also want to be informed on what are the best options. So I greatly appreciate everybody's time today. It's been a great call. We've got more calls coming up. We did have episode 1. If you missed that one, you can go back and see the first call that we did where we covered a lot of other features and options with the walk-in tubs. Thanks again, everybody, for your time today, and I'll look forward to catching up with you on the next video.